Cookie Swirl? See? Cookie fans, we have a very special DIY today. We're going to be creating an LOL surprise squishy of MC Swag. So this amazing LOL is going to be a squishy. So I'm just going to take this sponge right here. It's just a regular sponge that I just found. I may even have come from the Dollar Tree. And this is going to be turned into an LOL doll. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to have to plan out my pieces. We're going to need a headpiece, some arms, a body, and legs. Now this is a really thick sponge. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the head. Now, of course, for younger Cookie fans that want to do craft projects, you have to have an adult help you, especially with scissors and cutting through a sponge. It can be a little rough and tough. So I'm just gonna cut a piece. Keep cutting. Such a thick sponge. Woo! There we go. So this is going to be my future LOL surprise head. So now I'm just going to take it and I'm gonna kind of round off the corners. Now LOLs do have a thick head, but not as thick as this sponge. But that's okay. I'm just gonna keep on just kind of rounding out my sponge. Make it nice and round, just carefully snipping the edges as I go. I'm just gonna slowly shape the sponge into a head. Looking pretty good. Now I'm gonna start clipping in the details of her hair. So I'm going to smooth back some of the sponge, just like a little haircut, but some of the sponge I'm gonna leave a little raised. Just kind of pinch my sponge and cut it in between. There we go. See, it kind of creates like that little raised ridge. There we go. So now we've got our little ridges for her braids. There we go. That's looking pretty good. Just needs the basic outline shape. Now to create her ear, I'm just gonna go to the back of her head and just take a little teeny tiny snip out like that and just shape a little teeny ear. There we go. Now we got a little ear indent. Kind of smooth out the side of her cheek here. Now, of course, a lot of details are gonna be made with paint too. So this is just to get the basic shape. Now we need the rest of the sponge to cut out her body. So I'm going to take my sponge and cut it in half. Ta-da! And I'm going to cut here to make the legs. Just snip a little bit. It's gonna be our LOL's legs. It's a big, thick sponge, so I gotta make sure I kind of cut through all the layers. And LOL's had these really big bellies, so this needs to be the very, very tip of her belly here. So these legs definitely need to get cut back from her belly. So I'm just cutting this big, thick sponge back. And just like the LOL is here, I'm just going to cut the legs at an angle. So take my leg and cut. This will just make it a little bit easier to work with. So there's one leg, so I want to save this piece. And the other leg, cut at an angle. There it is, save that one. So now I can work on her body a little easier, trimming it, cutting it, molding it, and shaping it. This is where her belly's gonna start, so I'm gonna snip the rest of my sponge back. It's just kind of like sculpting with scissors. See, we're kind of getting that little LOL shape, and cut her back. Yes, looking pretty good. Now I have to start working on her slopey shoulders. So this is just way too pointy for her shape. So I'm just going to cut this area off here and just round it out. Now that I have her body sculpted, I'm gonna go back in now with my little leg pieces. So maybe easier to kind of start with her shoe. So I'm gonna kind of cut like a little L shape. So it's kind of an L shape like this. And just trim back the shoe and just start that way. Again, I'm not too worried about this because I know that all of my details get added in with paint. We just want to make sure we get the basic shape of this LOL. Yes, there we go. There we've got one leg. Now the other one. Now I've got my two little feet. Now I just have to attach them on. So I'm just going to take my body and kind of slice a little area here, just kind of on the side, just at an angle, just to kind of make a little bit of some room here. And then same thing with my legs. I'm just going to angle my cut just so I can kind of fit them onto the body like that. So that way they just kind of like a puzzle fit, just kind of wedge nicely right onto the body. Oh, you guys, it's starting to look like a little LOL. So now that I have some pieces, I'm gonna start gluing some of this LOL together. And I'm just gonna use some regular white glue and just use a whole bunch of glue and glue my pieces together. Like there's my leg. You guys, it looks like it's starting to take the shape of an LOL. Now before we glue our head on, we're gonna add on her arms. You can see her little hands sticking right out of her jacket. So I'm gonna take my sponge and I'm just going to cut another strip out. Maybe I only need half of it. Just a little piece of my sponge here. Whoop, cut this wedge in half. And these are now gonna turn into our arms. So now I need to round out my sponge to create her jacket. So I'm just gonna cut off the sharp edges on the side. and just round it out. There we go. So now it's kind of rounded. Oh, wait, forgot this corner. There we go. Now we'll work on this piece. Kind of trim it a little bit better here. Now I have to trim them to fit them onto my LOL. I'm gonna cut at an angle, just like that. See, it's kind of angled there. And that way it just kind of makes it a little bit easier to put it on the LOL body. And I can even kind of cut my LOL and kind of create like a little flattened out shape. That way it kind of fits on a little easier. Now, of course, this is still way too big, so I'm just gonna keep on trimming it down just so the size is a little bit better. These kind of look like Cheeto Puffs. Ooh, this is looking good. Then once I like the shape that I have, now I'm gonna go in with my glue. Yep, and glue them on. Use lots and lots of glue. And hold it on. Kind of just lean it up next to this muffin until it dries. No, stay. Now that I've got most of her arms glued on, and now I'm gonna keep on trimming these little Cheeto Puff arms so they're a little bit shorter because they're still a little bit long. That looks a lot better. Now I'm gonna glue my little LOL's head on. I'm gonna make sure the bottom of her head is nice and flat. Same thing with my little top piece here where her neck piece is. Looks like it should be a good fit. And glue. Now the sponge is probably gonna absorb a lot of this glue, so I may have to glue it twice, but for the first round, let's just stick the head on. Ew, look at that, my little LOL, I just leave to dry. This is looking so cute. Now the last thing that I wanna do is add on her hair braids here, how they're kind of sticking out at the back. I don't have to worry about her hands, even though I don't have them on my squishy yet. I'm just gonna create them with little tiny blobs of paint, just because her hands are so small, but I do need to put in her hair. So I'm just gonna use some of these little scrap pieces from my sponge that I cut. This piece should be good enough. And cut it in half and glue to my squishy doll. There we go. I cannot believe how cute this is. Okay, now we get to jump into the super fun part, painting. So I do not have all of the colors that I need for this LOL. Like this white color is just not creamy enough for her hair color because it has just a tiny hint of yellow in it. Same thing with her eyes. I'm gonna have to use some acrylic paint to mix up the perfect color. But if you use acrylic paint on a sponge squishy, it makes it really, really hard and very unsquishy-like. So we don't wanna do that. I wanna keep it as soft and squishy as possible. So everywhere I'm gonna be painting with acrylic paint, I need to prime my sponge first with some of this fabric paint. Ah, I can't get it to flip. Oh, there we go. Oh, okay, this looks really, really old. It's been a long time since I used this. You gotta make sure your paints do not get crusty. Woo! Okay, there we go. So now I'm gonna pour my primer all over the LOL's head and just paint it on. Now, fabric paint is different from acrylic paint because it's meant to be movable, you know, just like fabric. You want your fabric to be nice and soft. So this will keep the acrylic painted areas a little bit softer on the sponge. If I didn't use it, then my acrylic painted sponge area would be really hard and it would not be a squishy. Squishies need to be super duper soft, soft, soft. I'm so excited. Now I'm going to paint on her legs. There we go. Now I'm going to let my little LOL squishy dry. All right, everything has been primed. Now I'm gonna go in with some of my puffy white paint. And I'm gonna do a couple things with this one. First of all, I'm gonna fill in some of these little cracks here just to make it a little bit more even. Now, puffy paint is perfect because it will still make the squishy really, really squishy. But I just wanna fill in some of these kind of hollowed out areas, like right here on the leg. Just fill it in. I could do a little bit on the arm, but I'm probably gonna fill it in with her jacket color anyways, but I'll just add some puffy paint there. So I'm just kind of using this as like fill, a little bit of some filler. There we go. And now I'm also going to be building up her little hand because we can see her hand sticking out of her jacket. So with my little puffy paint, I'm just going to take it and create a little hand puff. There we go. And now I'm gonna let it dry. Ooh, it looks like her hands shrunk just a little bit, so I'm just gonna add on another layer to her hands. Ooh. There we go, and let that dry. Those hands are looking really good. Now we can start painting the primed areas. So now I'm gonna use my acrylic paint. Now again, normally I would not use acrylic paint. I would prefer to use a fabric paint, but I didn't have the right color, so I'm just gonna use the acrylic paint. Make sure I get the back of her neck painted. Now we're gonna start working on her hair. So it looks like white with a teeny tiny little hint of yellow. That is exactly what I'm gonna mix up with some acrylic paint. Mix in a teeny bit of yellow. Yes, there we go. It's a pretty good color. Now I'm just going to paint her hair. Now that I have her hair painted, I'm gonna go in and add her little swirly baby hairs that she has in the front of her face. So just gonna take my paintbrush and just kind of add these little tiny swirls and curls in. Now using my white fabric paint, I'm gonna start painting her eyes. LOL Surprise have really, really big eyes. Now while I'm waiting for her face to dry, I'm gonna go in and start working on the red on her outfit. So now I'm gonna use puffy paint. Oh no, it exploded a little bit. That's okay, I can go back in and fix that. That's okay. It's been a long time since I used this puffy paint. Oh no, and I'm kind of running a little bit low on it too. Hopefully I have enough to work on her outfit. Oh no, I think I'm all out. Oh no, okay, I'm gonna have to go and check and see if I have another one since this one is actually all empty. Okay, looks like I did have another. Whew. Oh! Okay, kind of came out a little fast. That's all right. I want to draw out the outline of where her jacket's going to be. So it's going to be about right here to about here. So I do not want to paint in this area. So I'm going to drag my paint over and just use my puffy paint. Same thing with this side. Don't want to paint into that area too much. And just keep on painting with my puffy paint. So it kind of helps to actually squeeze out a whole bunch of paint. So it's kind of like in a little clump like that. And then just take the tip of the bottle and just kind of swirl it around. There we go, right into the sponge. I'm gonna use a toothpick now to add in all of her little eyelashes. And of course, I'm gonna be going in with my black fabric paint. And I'll go ahead and add her eyebrows on. Now I'll go in with my white fabric paint and right on her outfit, I'm gonna write the word Baby01. And it's really hard to write with a toothpick on a spongy surface. And once the wording dries, I can go in and do a little teeny tiny touch of touch-up with my red paint. Now for her eye color, I'm gonna mix up my own personal colors with this lime sherbet. Now I'm gonna go in and paint the blacks in her eyes. And I can take my black too, and now I can start adding in her jacket details. Now to finish her jacket, I'm gonna go in with some white puffy paint. Add the details to her jacket. Ooh, and since I have the white open, I can add the dots to her eyes. This is what's gonna bring her alive. Oh, there's one and two. And once that first puffy layer dries, then I'm gonna go back in and add on a second layer. And it'll just kind of help with some of that splotchiness. So that feels nice and dry. Now I'm gonna go in with a little bit of some paint. And now I can paint her hand that she has sticking out of her jacket and paint the trim around her jacket. Now I'm gonna use my yellow paint and work on her boots. I'm just gonna swirl it on. Now I'm gonna go back in with my black and just add the very top of this boot. And then I'm gonna go in and just add the little outline of bows, like she tied her shoes. Now I'm gonna go back to my red paint and right on my toothpick, I'm gonna go right here back into her mouth, and we gotta give her lips. Now I'm gonna add the teeny tiny bump for her nose just by using a little bit of some of my paint. So right where I want her nose to be, I'm just going to add it in. There we go, and let that dry. And once her nose dries, then I'm just gonna go in with some paint and just paint right over it. And use a tiny touch of black to add the beauty mark right next to her face. All right, Cookie fans, are we ready to check out how the squishy turned out? All right, MC Swag, you ready? Uh-huh. Here's the squishy version of her. You guys, I think this so turned out. I'm so excited. So here she is. I made my very own LOL doll, completely 3D in every single way. But the best part about her is that she's squishy. So let's give her a squeeze. Squish! Oh, she's so soft. Oh, this is so cool. Oh, I am so happy. Oh, and her legs are super squishy too. So you can completely squeeze your own squishy LOL doll just like that. How fun. I think I was able to capture many of the details of the original LOL doll. We've got her hair. I got her little beauty mark. We were able to write Baby 01 on her shirt, her jacket, her shoes, everything. So very excited with how she turned out. And of course, I love the fact that she's squishy. I hope you Cookie fans enjoyed this video. If you guys create your own LOL squishies, please send me the pictures or the video because I would absolutely love to see your creations. You guys had sent me the coolest pictures whenever you guys created your own Shopkin squishies, and I so enjoyed those. Thank you so much for sharing those with me. So now I want to see your LOL squishies if you create any of these. Oh, it is starting to crack just a little bit right here because you can see because I used acrylic paint, so it's just a little bit cracky. I can put some Mod Podge on her head and it would help seal in some of that crackiness, definitely for sure, but I love her how she is. You guys have the absolutely squishiest best day. Squeeze anything that's negative out of your life and only let the happiness puff right back in. And of course, as always, I will see you in my next video. I'm so excited. I'll be there waiting. Bye, Cookie fans. She has her own squishy. Bye, Cookies. Ah! All right, Cookie fans, who remembers? What was the number on MC Swag's shirt again? Was it Baby 03, 02, 01, or 0? Bye, Cookie fans!